So, daily levels. The reason I'm looking at Filecoin is because this is one of the examples of what I was talking about in trading analysis just this morning, saying that Bitcoin was lagging, alts are leading to start the week. If Bitcoin goes back towards 5,800, alts will take a hit. Many look good, but have high funding, rising OI, and are above old liquidity levels. So this is what I mean here. This is not bearish. If you look at Filecoin like on a weekly, the chart looks great. It's building up some strength, but it is still just consolidating below resistance, and it's taken out the high above. And there's lots of room, quite clearly, for Filecoin to go down into a higher low before eventually going up, or even just have a shallow pullback, compressing the highs and pull back and pump. But that's happening across the market. So what I've seen is probably a bullish pullback is required. Total three as well. It's following the red path, but the red path is not up only, right? It's consolidating, consolidating, consolidating on the bands, and it needs to hold there for time because obviously, same thing happened over here. It held the bands, held the bands, and then we nuked down through it. Or same thing here. We held the bands, held the bands, held the bands, and then pumped higher. So I think it needs to retest the lows one more time. Needs to flush down, maybe touch the band, just maybe have whatever, just more consolidation, in my opinion, is required. And again, all of that's fine. You zoom out, you look at another strong weekly close, you look at the total three, room for a little early week dip, but zoomed out, all of this is bullish. Zoomed out, Bitcoin's bullish. Zoomed out, Ethereum's bullish, right? But pullbacks are absolutely part of the game, and I think we're getting one right now. So just to frame it that way. Talking about Bitcoin going back to 50.8, it's already touched. How low did it go? It's already touched 50.9, 50.8. It's just back to these lows. I think we'll hit that pretty easily. And as I'm looking at it here, there's a few charts that I can see where the 6 hour it had reclaimed and it's lost it again. So that was one level I was looking at for Bitcoin to continue compressing to go higher right away. It would have to touch that off first. So I'd be looking at lower, and probably I would say from this level, the red path is now invalid. It followed the red path absolutely beautifully all the way up to where it has lost now, barring like a V reversal. I think that we're going to follow maybe something more like the black path, where we come back down into support again, right? Back down into here, pop back up, maybe take out those highs, all the way back down, and then chop around and frustrate people. I would lean towards something like that. Blue path is still possible. I don't think we get all the way to 48. I actually think that if we dip lower, this old order block over here, all the way up to the round number of 50, I think that is the most likely place for price to find dip support. I would say there's going to be plenty of people waiting to buy the flush out of this range, plus previous order block, plus 50K round number, plus front running this 48. I think a lot of people want the 48. So red path is done. Black path is still on track. This blue path can always happen at any time. My ideal scenario for Bitcoin would be go down to 48, but I still don't think we're going to get it. And yeah, I'd be looking at something like this, down into here, and then back up. Because once we start getting into March, you're very, very close to the halving. Bitcoin needs to build up a bit of strength again because ETH's been running. I think ETH has now ran to the point where it's pushed right up into these highs, right? Everyone's gotten themselves probably nice and long ETH going up into that resistance. And I think this pullback that we see here is probably due for I think we're due for some kind of a pullback on ETH, ETH BTC. It doesn't mean ETH USD will do badly, but ETH BTC pulling back, pushing up, kind of chopping more than impulsing into the halving would make sense to me. Still showing some strength. Wouldn't be surprised if it just flushes all the way back down either. Again, this is ETH we're talking about. It's gonna cook people at every step of the way. Um, and this is a pretty like say we was talking about the other day. It's like it'll probably go higher. You'll feel like it's not going to stop. Then it stops. If he starts to go sideways here, we've got a flush potential. It doesn't have to be all the way down to here. It might not even happen like that. But so far, whenever it's just grinding up and up and up and up and up, no pullback, people get themselves really, really way ahead. They get way out over their skis and they think, oh, he's doing this thing where it marches up to all time highs and doesn't pull back. No, no, no. There'll be pullbacks. Don't worry. Patience. Patience is a virtue. And I actually think there'll be a pretty sizable pullback here. But it won't go, it's not going to V reverse from here. It's not going to come all the way up. And people want to see it like go straight down 29, 28, 27. It's not going to V reverse. The most risky thing is like this, right? So we've had our pump. If ETH drops back and then starts to go sideways for a few days, that's when that weakness builds. If it went sideways for a week or two, you could see a flush down, reaccumulation, away it goes. Whether that happens, I don't know. You've got the ETH upgrade, EIP 48484 date. You got an ETH event, March. Doesn't say exactly when, does it? Basically March, so this month coming up. And then ETH Denver. I'm pretty sure that I think the EIP 4844 is, here we go, February 23rd to March 3rd. So ETH Denver's already going and goes on until the 3rd of March. If you're new, you probably know what comes next. Coins tend to do well, right? They pump into their whatever their fucking conferences are, but they dump after and probably dump during. So ETH's been going up and up and up, doing really well, having a great run. And it was 23rd it started, so now we're on what? 20, yeah, it started on Friday. So we're a few days in. ETH still in the news. ETH still got bullish catalysts and positive sentiment. ETH probably is still going to have a little bit more strength than Bitcoin in the short term. But I think we're getting very, very, very close. Very close to a top. Or not even a top, just a flush, just a shakeout, some kind of dip. And again, it doesn't have to be. There we go. Schedule for March 13th. So the upgrade, the 4844 Denkoon upgrade, that is 13th of March, which is all the way over here. So there's reason to believe ETH can remain strong in this area, but I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if we saw ETH. Yeah, look, even if you follow that path, it takes you towards the 13th. Sometime around the upgrade or after the upgrade, probably see a pullback if there hasn't been one. And then the focus will shift back to Bitcoin as Bitcoin goes towards its halving. So ETH's had a run. It's looking good. Nothing like, no high time frame bearishness from me on ETH. Whenever things look like this and they're so far below all-time high with loads of room to run, nothing bearish about ETH here. But I would say that after that upgrade, you have like a month till the halving, and you don't have a clear ETH catalyst in that narrow time frame, and that would be the most obvious time for me for some kind of a reversal in the ETH versus Bitcoin strength. So how I'm going to play it is focus on Bitcoin, because I don't like to trade ETH, to be honest. I like to hold ETH if I'm planning to hold it for a few weeks or months, and I do hold some ETH. But trading wise, if I'm looking at trade setups, I've always found Bitcoin better. All my systems, most of them are built for Bitcoin, and I'm more profitable on Bitcoin. I make way more money, so no point trading ETH. But that does mean there's times where Bitcoin's not really that great to trade. So this for me is like, because in this last whatever week, Bitcoin's gone nowhere while ETH has gone higher. That's why I hold ETH, right? I hold some ETH in my portfolio because then at least I'm not fully exposed, but I get some exposure. And then when Bitcoin's not really moving, doesn't have great setups for any decent longs, then I just do nothing. Right? Try to avoid excess over trading or anything like that on Bitcoin when it looks like this. When Bitcoin looks like this, there's a couple of things I think needs to happen, and it is basically these two paths. Either we go down and sweep all this out. If we go down below there, I'll be looking for. I won't be looking. It doesn't have to go to 50 or 49.5. Even if it just goes to 50.3, as long as if it goes below these lows, and I'm seeing signs of a Bitcoin bottom forming, I'll be getting long Bitcoin and looking to trade Bitcoin all the way back to 58.60 before the halving because I think it can get there. I think everything about it above 48k is strong. The other thing now, which I'll actually talk about this on trade of the day because this is very low time frame stuff. So that's pretty much it for the daily levels. Not much else. Some of the ETH beta was popping off. Fucking what did Frax do? When did they cure cancer? This morning. I know Lido was doing quite well. There was an old squiggle we drew on Lido from back, probably on an altcoin request stream. I think Lido will build its way up here to make a new high at some point. Some of the AI coins pulling back. Akash in a really nice compression consolidation towards the highs. But most of them are kind of cooling off. Render looking like a lower high bounce there. BitTensor's been weak. Fetch. So when did I say it? Last week, I think. Start of last week. Talked about that AI would lag soonish. This could be the start of it, right? And we've seen ETH and ETH beta coins running. It's just because the market didn't care. We've talked about AI all year, but the market didn't care. I go on Twitter and all I see is people shilling fucking the next layer one blockchain and all this other shit. Then they all started shilling Render and Fetch and WorldCoin. So it just tells you that the crowd is coming in late. I'm still hyper bullish AI. Could not be bullish anything. Like there's nothing I could be more bullish on from a crypto perspective, altcoins. But after a run like that, at best, it needs to just go sideways for a bit and then get outperformed by other things. Couple like mini red flags yesterday. Some total shit like Verge was pumping. And what else was pumping? There was a few just old coins that I know, like Verge here is it, right? There's a few old coins like that. Like Verge, just a dino coin from years gone by that just randomly pumps at the worst times and usually is late. There's a couple other ones that got my red flags. I think I talked about them in trading analysis, didn't I? Yeah, C98. Okay, yeah, C98. That's fucking BWF coin. It was pumping on the weekend, and one harmony. It pumped on the weekend, and again, nothing wrong with coins pumping. But like I said at the start of the video, a bunch of them have done this. They've pumped and taken out previous liquidity levels, and so then on the low time frames, you look at that and you're like, well, unless one can flip back above 2322, this is pretty clearly an area where you'd expect some kind of pullback. And C98, where did it push to? Yeah, it took out these highs, right? So a bunch of them have grabbed really, really key liquidity. This is from February of last year, 23. So this was the 2023 high. Came up, didn't touch it, grabbed it here. Now it's still above it for now, which is good, but should that get below, that's a bad sign for any longs that are trapped in the short term. But as I said, overall, all of this, like even when you look at C98, which is a dog shit, trash shitcoin, this doesn't mean the market's going to nuke. It probably means we can have a pullback, but this isn't like May 2021 or November 2021 when all these altcoins are going crazy. This is like super early. Look at this. It's forming a long-term bottom. It's just trying to break out from it. But it doesn't matter whether you're in a lower time frame rotation or a high time frame bull market, the end of the bull market. The same kind of stuff happens, and it's just that the low caps start to pump off randomly, just because it's how the flows go. People go for the large caps first, they go for the majors, then the large caps. It doesn't flow down like a lot of people share they share that infographic where it's like as if money just flows straight down from BTC to ETH, then into large caps, then mid, then small. It obviously doesn't go like that sequentially because we've had ETH running right now. It's not going to go like that. The main thing, don't look for like, is it Bitcoin, ETH, large, mid, small? You don't have to look at it that way. But if Bitcoin's already ran, which it has, and it's going sideways, so that's what we had done, Bitcoin up to 50, and then it was going sideways kind of like that, and then ETH is going higher, and then you see just random shit pumping. Like not every coin is pumping. Tommy's not pumping. CTC, it hasn't pumped in, like these are weekly count, like it hasn't pumped in weeks. It doesn't mean every single coin, but there's certain coins that you see them popping off, and if you go and check, and there's not like any particular reason or news or it's not like it's even part of like Verge isn't. It's not AI. It's not fucking gaming. It's not any of those things, right? Unless they're trying to rebrand, which they probably are. It's just a sign of market excess, a little bit of market excess, and then speaking of excess, look at Coinalyze. I'll actually look at Velo instead, where I've got the heat maps. Excuse me. So remember, like if I zoom out on the month, even 2 weeks, we had nice green neutral funding, and it's been rising and rising and rising and rising all the way through across the last 2 weeks to where now most of the, especially going into Saturday and Sunday, most of the coins had pretty positive funding. And then you go down the curve as well, same thing, mid caps, small caps, especially small caps, a lot of positive funding. Again, funding's not bad. Like I talked about, check weekly outlook to understand high funding's not bad. But when you see a pattern of persistently rising funding across different sectors, it's obviously a sign that some excess is coming in. And we'd like to see maybe a little flush back, a dip down to take some of these back into the green, which I would consider to be a healthier correction and a better setup to start buying dips. So that's pretty much it. On a trade of the day, I'll go into Bitcoin. I want to talk about the sticky strength you should expect to see on BTC, especially with New York trading sessions and the ETF flows. So we'll do that next. GM.